As you can tell, we are now joined by Brad Keselowski, driver, the number 2 discount tire Ford for Team Penske. We're going to open the floor up for questions, and we will start with Bob Pockrass.
Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports. Everybody talks about trying to learn this package. With a win, can you be kind of the guinea pig or the experimental car for things that your team wants to look at?
Well, okay. Yeah, first off, I got to say happy birthday, Bob. How many are you going to tell us? 50? Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have pushed it a solid 42. 42. So the question is, am I a guinea pig? Is that the question?
Can you be the experimental car, for lack of a better term, for something your team wants to look at?
Yeah, sure. Why not? If it's the faster experimental things. I like the faster ones. I'm not so keen on the, hey, we're not so sure if this is faster, but it might break things. But, yeah, I think that's generally how it goes for most teams when you have a car that's locked in. At least early in the year, you can, kind of throw some bones at them, and if it breaks, yeah. If it works, good. Then it seems like it kind of flips right before the playoff starts, where it's, so-and-so might not get in, and they're your teammate or whatever it might be, your team car, and if we got one of something, he gets it, and let's see if it helps. So for right now, it's good for sure.
Go next to Matt.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. There at the end of the practice session, the Penske cars lined up, looked very similar at times to like a Daytona practice session. What did you learn, and is that a harbinger for what we could see in qualifying or even the race on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know. We're not really sure what we learned yet, to be honest. We're not as fast as the RCR guys can run by themselves a good 4 or 5 tenths faster than we can, and I think we were just kind of throwing some Hail Marys to see if we could stumble upon something, and didn't really stumble upon much. So trying to really understand why that is, what we're missing, and how we're going to find speed by ourselves, and hopeful that when the race starts, we'll have speed in that trim. Problem, Matt.
We'll go next to Jeff and then to Mark.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. But so like last week on this Friday, it was like, oh, geez, the Penske car is not looking good. They're down on speed, and then next thing, you win the race and everything looked fine in the race. Is that going to be like some sort of a weekly occurrence where Friday and Sunday are a different thing this year?
Well, I guess we'd have to ask that after the race is over. If it was just, right now we have one data set, which is not a great thing to go off of, but it's something. Based off the test, if you're really fast in qualifying, you'll be really fast here leading in the race. But if you ever lose track position, you'll never get it back. And I think that was part of what Atlanta saw too. So it's a big question mark. And a lot of it plays into the variability of the race, with the stages. The stages for this kind of, rule settings have even a bigger effect than before because the strategy will be even more mixed. It'll be very hard to keep track position. So you'll do things to win the stage that might bury you for the next stage. And if you don't have a car that can handle, you'll never get it back. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But that's probably my intuition at the moment, Jeff.
We'll go to Mark, then to Jerry, then to Claire.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Brad, I watched the video of you out in the infield with the family, the gentleman there last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You go out there to do these kind of things. Hey, it's kind of neat, people, but that seemed like another whole level. I mean, were you surprised that there was that kind of connection from him to you and then you to him?
Well, I'd say, Mark, one thing I've learned over the, years I've been in coming to racetracks is to never be surprised by something you see in a campground. So I can't say I was entirely surprised, but I was maybe more humbled. There's a lot of people that come to races that, this is their deal, right? This is what they've been doing with their family for years, and maybe it's their one vacation. Everybody's got a different story. But I think sometimes, obviously, that gets lost on us as competitors, because when we come to the racetrack, it's head down, what can we do to win? And it's hard for us to see the picture of everybody who's here, and everyone's got a different story, and it's nice from time to time to be able to reflect upon that, and certainly doing those things helps me. And the gentleman past week in Atlanta, his story was certainly very pulled at your heartstrings, so just put it that way. Someone who's been coming to the racetrack for 30-some years with his dad and lost his dad, and not sure if he still wants to come. So it's nice to be able to see those people and tell them and show them that our sport hasn't forgotten about them. We're glad to have them here.
How much do you enjoy running into different stories in the infield when you're out there?
A lot. And there are some really unique perspectives. I saw someone in Daytona had been coming, I think he told me since the 60s, and could tell you the stories of how things have changed, and some things have changed for the better and some maybe not. So again, just it's good perspective finding, and I think sometimes we all could use that.
Go next to Jerry, then to Claire, then to Ron.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net right here. You talked about data sets on this new package, and I guess switching back and forth with with ducks, without. How far into the season do you see before you guys get a good feel on everything, and where you can plan out the rest of the year with the new packages?
Internally, in my mind, Jerry, I've put Kansas as a big marker for the sport. When we're out here on the West Coast, the teams don't really get a good chance to innovate on the cars and kind of redo them, apply the lessons learned. But by the time we get through Texas and get to Kansas, generally I think we see the field kind of settle into where they're going to be, and I would expect that to be the case with the way the schedule plays out this year.
Claire?
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Can you talk about the idiosyncrasies of qualifying at this racetrack here today?
I used to. I used to could. Claire, I really have no idea what to expect in qualifying right here. Part of me thinks the 3 and the 8 car are going to just drive away and sit on the pole, and part of me thinks you're going to see a 10-car drafting pack. Part of me thinks that everybody will sit down on pit road till the time expires, and we'll go, what was that? So I really don't know what to expect, if I'm being honest.
And is there, qualifying is always important, but any less important because you'll be drafting and that the race will be different, that qualifying is not as key here?
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far. By not qualifying well last week, it would probably cost our team a bunch of stage points. And, we won the race and only scored like the 5th or 6th most points because of that. If we had scored some stage points, we'd be leading the points right now. And so that stinks. So I want to qualify well. I want to get those stage points, and I want to be leading the points. So that really starts with Friday.
Ron?
Hey, Brad. Ron Kantowski, Las Vegas Review-Journal. If you were a race fan on Sunday, watching the race on his sofa, would you rather be watching it with this new aerodynamic package or the one that you guys ran last year?
Ron, I would say if I had one thing I'd want the cameras to zoom out. And whether it's this rules package or last year's rules package, I just don't feel like with the camera zoomed in, you can really appreciate all that's going on. So if I was sitting on my couch watching the race, the first thing I would say is zoom the cameras out. That's what I say when I watch them. When I watch like an Xfinity race or something in the garage, it's the first thing I say. Because I think more so than any rules change, the biggest thing we can do is try to give a better perception of just how much great racing there is across the whole field. And I feel like a lot of times the sport suffers from the fact that we zoom the cameras in on 1 or 2 cars and we lose perspective, which is why coming to a race, in my opinion, converts fans or people who maybe weren't fans into fans. Because it's such a different experience where you can feel the energy and the excitement more. So I don't think it's a matter of the rules. I think if I was watching on TV, I just want to get better perspective.
Let me phrase it in a slightly different way. Do you think fans are going to enjoy this race more than the drivers will because of the new rules?
I don't know. I enjoyed the test. I enjoyed parts of both. I got to do the test here. I enjoyed some of the race runs. I enjoyed before this just screaming fast around here. I mean, ridiculously fast. And I enjoy the tactics of running in the group as well. It's different. I don't know if it's better or worse. At the end of the day, that's really for the fans to decide, and they'll vote with their attendance and with the ratings.
Thanks.
Go right behind you here to the Tom.
Tom Zaleski, Iron County Today. Hey, Brad.
Howdy.
You've won here twice previously. You've had the test. Does anything you've done in the past, is it different? Is it different? What is different now as opposed to when you won here before?
You know, every year that the cars change, the field changes. I'm more comfortable with the track than I was the first time I won here. I can tell you that. I feel like I know where every bump is, and not that I could drive the track blindfolded, but I can feel comfortable looking in my mirror and knowing when I hit XYZ bump exactly where I'm at without having to focus on it. That's part of the experience because all that stuff affects you, obviously. I would say I feel more comfortable. The cars are, of course, driving a little differently. And of course, my perceptions have changed with time of what I'm comfortable with and how the car should drive. So I think, if anything, I just feel more comfortable. More so than any car change or anything like that.
Go next to Reed and then back to Mark.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Brad, does your plate racing prowess, do you think it's going to help at all with this package, or are they still just too different?
I've thought about that a little bit, Reed, and I felt like it helped me a little bit last week. I felt like it helped me a lot at the test. I'm not sure it'll play into the race. I really don't know. I don't think it'll hurt.
Go to Mark and then to Lee.
Mark Arrowhead, PRN. Brad, you talked about enjoying, parts of the practice. What kind of a chess match is it? 3 and 4 wide? Is it, like rolling down the interstate in 4 lanes? You're trying to pick the lane. Sometimes you get the right one. Sometimes you have to tap the brakes. Sometimes you have to jump on the brakes.
Yeah, you know what? I think, Mark, that the question is the cars definitely don't want somebody on the right side of them. They never did, but it's even more prevalent now. So that means you run up high, but that's also the longer distance. So then you try to, cheat that a little bit in the corners the best you can. So you find yourself trying to play defense the best you can, and in doing so, it's very difficult because you don't want to give up the inside and you don't want to give up the outside. I don't know if there's anything like it that I can compare it to, but I can say that, when you see like maybe the racing at Daytona and you see all the cars up against the wall and you say, well, why are they doing that? It's because they're trying to hide the right side of the car. And I can see some of that playing out here, but the cars honestly don't have enough handling to be able to do that like at Daytona. So you'll see some kind of go to the bottom. It maybe reminds me more of a kind of a game of leapfrog, a Frogger or whatever it is. You want to get down to the bottom, make a pass, and then get up and hide yourself from the big truck that's going to run you over. But that's the best way I know how to maybe compare.
We'll go to Lee and then we'll wrap up with Woody.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. A couple of the drivers were saying during practice they didn't want to be the car out front. Would you agree with that? And what kind of defense, I guess, if you're that guy, are you going to play?
You mean out front in qualifying or in the race?
During the race.
Lee, I want to be in the front. I'm going to get to the front and nobody's going to pass me if I get there. So if I can get there, that's what I'm going to try to do. As far as qualifying, I want to be the guy in the front too if I have a car as fast as Austin and Daniel do, because I don't think you're going to draft them and catch them.
And you said, I think it was to Claire, you said, honestly, we don't have a plan. I can't believe that Penske doesn't have a plan going into qualifying with the 4 cars. I didn't see you guys draft. We had media availability in here. Did you guys get to run in a pack the way SHR and JGR did?
We did a little bit, and it was not very successful. So I don't expect that'll play out for us. meaning our cars together. We might tag along with somebody else, but we're not close enough for that to work.
Woody came with MRN. Brad, to get you to look ahead week for us, if you will, what kind of an impact do you think flip-flopping the start-finish line had at Phoenix, and how much more or less pronounced might that be with the new package?
I really liked it. I thought the racetrack, and I'm going to eat a little crow here because I personally thought to myself that the flip-flopping at Phoenix was a disaster before the race started. And after I ran the race, I thought it was one of the best things they ever did. So that shows what I knew going into it. That's why you got to run a race first. And what I liked about it is I felt like you set yourself up for passes a lot better because you didn't get about 1 and 2 so narrow. And when you'd have a restart, you couldn't do anything. And then the cars would gap off of 2, and by the time you got to 3 and 4, you were too spread out to do anything. Since the track was flipped and 3 and 4 is now 1 and 2, 1 and 2 is now 3 and 4, the new 1 and 2 is very wide, and I feel like that allows you to make moves and keeps the cars closer together when they get to the new 3 and 4. And I thought it was just better racing.
Brad, thanks for taking the time to join us, and good luck this week.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Take care.